I get where you're coming from on that. And I think what's amazing is it turns out that the West of Ireland accent is sexy for the world. Who knew? We didn't know.
Do you think about me at night when the sky is losing a light? I swear my head fills up with memories.
We used to hook up secretly.
Secretly? That's cool. That's actually really hot.
I don't tell anybody in school about this.
Like I talk to anyone at school. I'm never lonely when I'm with you.
Tell me why this has to be this heavy.
You try to act like you're friends, but you know you're not that kind of person. Just kiss me.
I feel like I'm walking around trying on 100 different versions of myself.
And how do you know what you want?
Most of the time I don't have a clue.
You must know what you feel.
Do your friends know about us?
No.
I feel like everything's changed.
You don't want to touch me, but you get to dictate who else does.
They don't really think that's what's going on here.
What is it then?
I did used to think that I could read your mind at times. I don't know, maybe that's normal.
It's not.
Lenny Abrahamson, it's lovely to chat to you today. Thanks for taking the time out of your hectic lockdown schedule to speak to us about normal people.
Delighted to be here.
So you don't need me to remind you, but obviously you're well experienced in TV and film. And but have you ever experienced anything like this? That's kind of, I suppose, the circus that's going on around normal people at the moment.
No, short answer, no, nothing like it. Yeah, it's just been mad. Every day you think it's going to die down, and then there's just another wave of stuff, and it just seems to roll and roll. So no, I've never experienced anything like this. It's been a total journey. I mean, from the comfort of my own house, obviously, given where we are, but still, it's been kind of overwhelming.
Have you enjoyed the journey so far?
Yes, I have, because I really like everybody involved in the show so much, and making it was such a pleasure. And I think I have a real, I love the thing, and I'm proud of it. So it's nice. It's an unequivocally good thing to see so many people respond to it. I mean, it does get a bit exhausting, and there's part of me that would like to get back to work and just doing the normal things. And that's actually that this week that's beginning to happen. But generally speaking, it's just great, and it's brilliant for everybody involved. It's just such a spotlight on a whole load of really creative people, and seeing them all get their kind of moment in the sun is wonderful.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, although these people and these faces and these names might have been known within the industry, it's just like the world isn't just discovering Daisy and Paul. And even though Fionn had things like Handsome Devil, this has moved him up to another level. Desmond as well, just out of nowhere, do you know what I mean? And it's just, there's a lovely collective awakening or discovery of just talent.
That's right. And what's lovely as well is that, because that generation of actors here, as well as Elliot Salt, who plays Joanna, and all of these some young British actors as well, or like Sebastian D'Souza, who's brilliant as Gareth. But from an Irish perspective, you've got a bunch of young actors. Quite a few of them would have studied together, actually. Some of them in the Lear. Some come from Bow Street, and then others just came into the industry in other ways. But a lot of them are friends. So there's something really particularly nice, like Paul, Aina, who plays Rob, Sean, who plays Eric. Like they're all good old friends, and Clinton, who plays Kiernan. They're all like part of that same group, and yeah, it's particularly nice to see them all sort of get their moment.
Yeah, and what's the awful thing about it is talking to people like Fionn and Desmond. They're all horribly gushing about each other as well. It seems like everybody is just actually in love with each other. And you mentioned it there. You were like, the fact that you actually loved working with them anyway. But no one, no one has a bad word to say about each other.
I know. We sound like the worst kind of lovies in the world. And there is a thing which happens when you work so closely with people. It's like a sort of circus. experience, or it's like being on the road with a band or whatever. The relationships are they're quite kind of full on because you're all under pressure and working together. They're just good people, and they all gel together so well. That's part of the reason why I think the show works.
Now, obviously, for yourself, coming in and directing a certain number of episodes and then taking another number as well, and massive congratulations to you both, because I was able to binge it. I'm up in Derry, so I'm in the north. I have the BBC player. I was able to go like across 2 nights. Give it all to me, please. So I've just about recovered. That was a few weeks ago. But in terms of the pressure for yourself, obviously people have talked about the intimacy, the nudity, the sex scenes. But for me, there were 2 big challenges. One, how did you make the West of Ireland accent sexy for the world?
That is, I get where you're coming from on that. And I think what's amazing is it turns out that the West of Ireland accent is sexy for the world. Who knew? We didn't know. We thought it was like, the thing that you'd obviously, you'd be expected to drop when you came to the big city. Little did we realize that it was kind of like a global asset.
Yeah, and Daisy obviously perfected hers. It's a flawless performance from her as well. What was there ever from yourself, like an early kind of audition process, or ever a worry or danger where it's just like, we're losing it here, or do you know what I mean? Because it's nailed for the series itself.
At the beginning we did, so we worked with Daisy's got a great ear, so she's got a very good ear for accent. But we worked with Paul Mussolidis, who's great voice coach, and then I worked really closely with Daisy as well, because I'm quite good on accent, and we refined it to a very specific sort of version of West of Ireland, which makes note of class as well. And it's such a difficult thing to do. Like what makes her from that big house vocally? And she based a lot of it on recordings actually of Sally Rooney. So because Sally is from Mayo, she's so close enough, but also Sally's got a very direct, very kind of self-possessed and clear way of speaking, which we felt would be a really good quality to give Marianne. So Daisy listened to a lot of tapes of her, and then through the rehearsal and the shooting, we would just like I would just keep an ear open for it, and then by the time, because Hetty's from the UK, so wouldn't have had quite the same sort of familiarity with the West of Ireland accent, but she got very used to it, and also all the people around on the crew were tuned in at that point, and Daisy herself had an awful lot of practice. But it was so interesting to get it right, like, and make it a contemporary accent as well. I thought it was just important. If that hadn't worked, it would have made the whole thing feel just artificial and wrong.
Well, I think everybody is just massively surprised that first moment they found out that Daisy's actually from England after they've watched the series. So, but it's testament to how good her performance is. The second bit of pressure felt like in a GAA loving nation. And I saw you tweeting some of the rushes the other day, which were brilliant, and the excellent young goalkeeper as well. But when you're shooting like live sport like that, especially when that's going to become I know we're kind of joking aside, but there's a lot of pressure there because so many people are familiar with that to get that feel real and feel that authentic. And then it obviously that feeds into the rest of the show as well.
Especially like from a Dublin-based filmmaker and I don't come from a GAA tradition at all and never played. I've actually since got really into it because it's a great sport. Both hurling and football are amazing, and my son plays. So I now feel myself to have some familiarity. But yeah, if you got it wrong, it would just be sort of disrespectful, and everybody would pick it up. But I think it's a couple of things. Like Paul himself's a really good player, so he would have been, he was on the panel for the senior team in Kildare as a very young guy, and Muirish Crowley, who plays the teacher Kerrigan. He's also a very good GAA player in the past. And then we leaned on the Peregrines coaching staff as well. And we surrounded the guys with all players who could really play. That's you're 3/4 of the way there. And then the trick is to give a simple, we let it play for real for quite a lot. In other words, we just said, let's play a game. I gave them some rules. Try and keep it in this area because it's good for the camera. But there was no sort of you pass to him and you pass to him and then you get the ball stuff. It was just play the game, and we would follow them on multiple cameras on long lenses, just like you do if you're filming a real game. That's that's not rocket science. And then we set up the move, which led to the goal after now that you've seen the rushes, several superb saves from the keeper, and that was just a very rough move, but it was planned enough to know that we would get the moment we needed from Paul. And the trick is just not to shoot it like you know what's going to happen, because that's what makes sport on telly look like it's real, is that the camera does not know what's going to happen next. Whereas if you shoot like a la, Invictus or Escape to Victory, it just looks like some weird soap opera with people pretending to play, and it's so unnatural. So yeah, just get real people to do it and then shoot it like you would if you didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I'll make sure Matt Damon doesn't watch this while he's in Donkey,
Oh,
so that not to slag
yeah,
off his Invictus playing. No,
there
no,
is
but
a script I was about to send him.
there's still hope. I'll delete that part out. I've seen you also got a unique gift, a lovely portrait of Joe Duffy with his head in his hands, which has got to be like I was wondering, have you put it up to hang anywhere, or is it
No, I'm
right in
getting
place?
it. I'm going to get it framed. I'm just looking to see where it is. I think it might be with other pictures that I got to be framed. As soon as the framers are open, I'm getting it framed. And I actually found out because I spoke to somebody in RT who said they've ordered one as well. So Joe has ordered from the same artist a picture. Yeah, that was
Brilliant.
great.
It's now part of the official Normal People merchandise, Shane. Yeah.
Exactly.
From chatting to some of your cast, they were mentioning there's a WhatsApp group which is lovely, that people are still in touch with each other,
Yeah,
and people are constantly putting in updates of like, did you see who likes the show? Did you see who commented?
yeah.
Was there a particular moment along the way, like a turning point for you, where you were like, okay, we're not in Sligo anymore. This has gone beyond here.
There were a few, right? I mean, there've been the things that people have noted, the Kardashians and all those people sort of watching it, and you realize, oh, it's become sort of it's hit the main highways of the States, in terms of shows that people talk about and watch. It's not something you don't have to explain what it is. And then I started seeing headlines which were not about the show, but about things that they could hang off the show. Like if you like if you like Marianne and Normal People, you might like this. So you're thinking, okay, it now occupies this position where it's a sort of reference point for other things. But I think for me, it was about 2 days after it came out. It came out on the Sunday, and on the yeah, actually, do you know what? It was like the Tuesday morning or something like that. Because I've been watching all this stuff come in on social media, and I had said to my wife, and I actually had this feeling that the evening before that, like, am I having a dream? Because the stuff that's being written here sounds like the bit that you would, if you were in your own fantasy head, daydreaming about the reception of something, that's what you'd say, you know? It sort of seemed like it was you wouldn't believe it in a script kind of thing, right? And then I woke up the next morning and thought, well, I'm not even going to open up social media. It's all gone a bit mad. I'm just going to do something completely different. I'm going to listen to a political podcast to make to tune back into the general misery of the world. So I sometimes listen to, there's a BBC podcast, used to be called Brexit Cast, now called Corona Cast, and it's all with the main BBC political reporters, Laura Kunsberg and all those people. So I thought I'll just listen to that, and I opened it up, and the title was Normal People and something, I can't remember, something political. And they spent the first like 5 minutes talking about how they'd binge watch Normal People over the weekend and what they'd been saying to each other on their WhatsApp group. And I thought, wow, that
There's
was the
something going
moment for
on
me
here.
where I thought this has all changed a bit.
Yeah, yeah, no, the reaction has been incredible. I know you mentioned like the work with Daisy there as well, and obviously there's an audition process. And Fionn actually said something lovely. He bumped into Paul during the audition process, and they went for a coffee. And he said he was looking at Paul and going, "Oh my God, you just are Conno. Essentially, you're going to get this part regardless."
Yeah.
But can you remember the first time seeing the two together, like reading together, and like what was that moment like?
So we had found Paul quite early in the process. Louise Kiley, a brilliant casting director, had got him to self-tape. She had a good feeling about him already. And he came in with a bunch of self-tapes that I watched. And all of us in the office just felt, wow, that's amazing. He is amazingly right for this. So then we were looking and we did continue to sort of keep him on we didn't tell him because we didn't know if we would find the right match for him. And you're casting a couple, really. You're not just casting the correct Paul and the correct Marianne, the correct Connell. So it was a couple of months, and then Daisy's first self-tape came in, and my ears my eyes kind of widened, as did everybody else's. And then I got to meet her, and I brought her over to read with Paul, with a few other brilliant actresses that we thought might be sort of interesting to look at. But like, I think in my heart, what the hope was that Daisy and Paul would, and we had a couple of reads with other people, and they were all really interesting, brilliant actors and stuff. And then the two of them got together, and it was just what it was like. It was like it just became more than the two separate performances. It became this kind of other thing, which is what everybody is watching on screen, and the reason why everybody loves the show. None of that would be possible if this kind of energy didn't exist between the two of them. And you could feel that in the room. And what you could feel was a sort of creative playfulness between them. And because people talk about, they talk about chemistry, and they talk about sexual chemistry as if the actors are attracted to each other. But that's not what it is, any more than if they're having a huge argument, they're angry with each other or they hate each other in real life. What it really is a kind of, it's like watching two great sports people, like in midfield, play off each other. It's just a kind of joyful, like intense connection creatively. And they had that. And they played a scene, I can't remember what the scene was. And they weren't even off book, or Daisy wasn't even off book. So she had her script with her. And I looked around, and two of the producers, I think Catherine McGee and Emma Norton behind me, both were crying. And we just felt like, wow, that was that thing in an audition room that you hear about where you go, yeah, these people are really superb. And I think at that point we knew that we could really make the show, which was handy because we were starting, 4 weeks afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have. That would have been interesting. Like, you know what, lads, call it off. Let's wrap it up here. My favorite. I mean, favorite is a tough word because it's more the whole series has a feel to it. It leaves you like feeling a certain way. But in terms of acting and a particular scene, it's the counselling scene with Paul as well that comes close to the end of the series, which really elevated for me watching it. Elevated him as well, in terms of his acting. But is there a particular favorite, scene or moment, not in terms of filming it, but when you're watching it for you, that you're like,
I'm right in it? Well, I love that scene as well. I think Hetty did an incredible job with it. I mean, and both actors were amazing, and Paul in particular just absolutely went for it. And it's an important thing to see on screen as well for young men, I think, to recognize that sort of vulnerability is possible and can be expressed. For me, I think there's a scene in episode 5 where they've met each other again in college. They're officially friends, but she's going out with Gareth, and they're studying in her house, and he apologizes for how he treated her in college. And it's a long scene, and it's really simple, and it's really still, and it's just there's a level of kind of authenticity to the performances in it, and a sense of kind of, I don't know, there's just such energy and such kind of intimacy in it that I find that's beautiful. And it's the closest to me to how I imagined the series when I was thinking about it in advance.
I obviously loved all your episodes as well, just to put that on the record. I didn't mean to pick a favorite moment from.
Thank you very much. I'm very secure, Eoghan, in my work. I appreciate
that. I know people are talking about second series this, second series that, and there's headlines. But as a creative, as somebody who actually makes these things, is a second series, is it right? Is it wrong? But is it something that you think you might want at some point?
Well, it's funny. We never really talked about, in the whole, over the course of doing it, we never talked about a second series because we always felt like the book ends where it does for a reason. It is open-ended, and it is, but in a way, Sally has said the important things that she wants to say successfully in the course of that story. So I can't imagine, I don't think any of us ever really thought about a story which followed directly on from the end of season 1, if that's what it is. However, there's a sort of niggling thought that we've all played with, and who knows, like, what would it be like to revisit them in 5 years or 10 years? Because the characters are so well defined, and because they sort of exist for a lot of people, it's so rare to have that thing to play with and to have those very securely grounded characters. And it's an opportunity that therefore doesn't come along very often, where you could look at a sort of, pick another point in their lives and sort of triangulate a sense of them fully, over the course of a period of time. So I think, who knows, but if everybody was up for that in a few years' time, I'm sure that would be an amazing thing to try and do.
Well, it worked for Richard Linklater with, in terms of the
Exactly.
that's a perfect kind of examination of the
Exactly.
journey of a relationship. So, yeah, no, that would be wonderful.
I just hope
And I,
I could do the 10-year reunion. I don't know the 20-year. No, I could probably still do that, but after that, I'd have to hand it over.
yeah, Connell's back coaching his local GAA club, so he is. That's
Exactly,
that's
and I'm
that's where he
directing
is.
some
Yeah,
of Zimmer Frame.
exactly. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you need to get going. But just to quickly kind of finish up. Aside from normal things and normal people and the exciting things that will be happening with the cast from here, because I'm sure they'll be inundated, no shortage of offers to work on things. One of the things that keeps popping up in different places is, do you think Paul could potentially make a good James Bond?
I actually do. I mean, whether he'd want to or not, or whether they'd think of him at some point. I think he'd need to be a bit older. They tend to be, but I think, yeah, he's got that. He's got that kind of masculinity that Bond needs to have, and he's fit and he's charismatic. Yeah, oh, I would love that. I mean, that would be just great. That would really, really please me, I have to say.
Yeah, I can see you've got like a giddy smile on your
Yeah.
face there. And then in terms of yourself, I know that the future of filmmaking, TV series making, any kind of I don't know how socially distant sets could even operate. Especially if there's a series like this, Intimacy. How does that work? But where do you see that kind of going for yourself, and what is next for yourself in terms of what you would like to work on? Because I'm sure things have
Yeah.
changed, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough, there's still the same projects that I was wanting to. I mean, it's always been like that for me. I've never sort of, like, after Room, I didn't sort of go and grab the biggest thing that I could get. Not because I'm sort of such a wonderful and, I don't know, unworldly type. It's more just I know what I'm interested in and what I'm good at, I think. Um, this time, it's really hard to know because, like, nobody knows when it's going to be safe to shoot again. I mean, whether safe is one thing and possible is another. We don't know about insurance. We don't know about, you can socially distance, I don't know, to some extent, but I don't know what a shoot would look like that obeyed those rules strictly. And you obviously, the people in front of the camera, unless you're telling a story about people who are socially distancing, it's impossible, I think, to do that. So I don't know how that's going to work, and I don't know when. But as soon as it does, I'm doing, as I couldn't resist it. I'm going to do Conversations with Friends as a TV, which is Sally's first novel.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's you are. That's
yeah, I am doing it, and it's
confirmed. You
with,
are going to do that.
yeah,
Oh,
it's with
brilliant!
Element, and it's with Alice Birch, who was the other main writer with Sally on Normal People, and it's a really fascinating book, and I really enjoyed this. So I just feel like I want to do that. That's one thing, and then I've got a couple of feature projects. One about a famous boxer called Emil Griffith, from like 60s, 70s in New York, which would be an amazing thing to do. But obviously, that would be that's big and crowds and all sorts of stuff and very hard to handle now. So, and I'm working on a project with Mark O'Halloran again, who I did Adam and Paul and Garage with on Prosperity, which is set in the west of Ireland, based somewhat on his own childhood, which we've been talking about for a long time and is shaping up really well. But like I say, I'm just really glad we got this one out because, we were close to not getting it out. We were, probably a couple of weeks longer and we might not have been able to finish.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm
the,
really
the
thankful we got to do that.
Yeah, the timing has worked absolutely perfectly for it. So if there ever is another season, I don't know, fingers crossed for another pandemic. Well,
Yeah,
hopefully,
or
hopefully.
maybe sort of some other maybe minor weather event or something that isn't quite as disastrous. Keep people indoors.
Keep people indoors, exactly. Well, listen, Lenny, as ever, it's a pleasure. Huge congratulations again,
Thank you.
and thank you for taking the time to speak about it. Yeah, we look forward to all those other projects and just rewatching Normal People, basically. But thank you.
Thanks so much.
You know, you were saying the other day that you like me. But by the photocopier, you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you mean like as a friend or what?
No. Not just as a friend.
Yeah, I thought that might be implied. I just wasn't sure. See, I'm just a little confused about what I feel. I think it'd be awkward in school if something happened with us.
No one would have to know. That was nice.
All right, what are you laughing for?
Nothing.
Well, you're acting like you've never been kissed before.
I haven't.